Straight Life by Art and Lori Pepper. This episode of Straight Life is called When the Saints Go Marching In. It's from a chapter called On the Road with Stan Kenton's Band, 1946 to 1952, and it's pages 97 through 100. In the previous episode, Art began shooting heroin instead of sniffing it. In this episode, he's having a very good time with his fellow band members on the road. Oh, one note, anyone who's described as using heroin in this episode, that person's name has been changed. Except Art's, of course, and here's his narrative. After I got the outfit and started fixing, that was my thing. I still drank and smoked pot, but I was a lot cooler. Things were going great for me. I was featured with the band, and we played all over the country. We'd go from one state to another, and the bus driver we had at the time was a beautiful cat who knew what all the liquor laws were. Some states were dry, and he'd stop just before we crossed into a dry state and say, "This is the last time you can buy alcohol until such and such a date." We'd all run out of the bus. We'd figure out how much liquor we'd need. If we went to Canada and had to pass through an inspection station, we'd take our dope and the guys that were using heroin, our outfits or pills, and give them to the bus driver to stash behind a panel. We'd go through the station and get shook down, and then he'd open the panel and give us our dope back. And wherever we'd pass through, we'd buy different pot. In Colorado, we'd get light green, and in New Orleans, it was gunji or mota. There were a lot of connoisseurs of pot who carried little film cans of it and pipes with screens to filter it. And when we had a rest stop, we'd jump out of the bus and smoke. Me and Andy Angelo roomed together for a long time, and before that, it was me and Sammy. And we each had our outfits. I had a little carrying case, like an electric razor case. I had an extra eyedropper and my needles, 4 or 5 of them. I had my little wires to clean the spike out in case it got clogged. I had a little bottle of alcohol and a sterling silver spoon that was just beautiful, and a knife to scoop the stuff into the spoon. I used to carry this case in the inside pocket of my suit, just like you'd carry your cigarettes or your wallet. I even carried a little plastic glass. I would set up my outfit next to the bed in the hotel with my stuff in a condom. We used to carry our heroin in one to keep it from getting wet. I'd wake up in the morning and reach over, get my little knife, put a few knife fills in the spoon, cook it up, and fix. It was beautiful. It was wonderful being on the road with that band. Everyone liked each other, and we all hung out together. When the bus left Hollywood, we'd buy bottles of liquor and start drinking. That was just standard procedure. It was a celebration. I always prided myself on being able to stay up longer than anybody else, drink more than anybody else, take more pills, shoot more stuff, or whatever. I remember once when we left LA, we kept drinking and smoking pot and having a ball until the bus just ceased to be a bus. We wandered up and down the aisle talking and bullshitting. We kept going and going until, after about 26 hours, everybody started falling out. When it got to 36 hours, only a few of us were still awake. And finally, there was nobody left but me and June Christie. She could really drink. I don't remember how many quarts we put away. We drank continuously, I guess, for a good 46 hours, and we were going to keep it up until we got where we were going, but she fell out too. So there I was all alone. That was awful. and I panicked. I couldn't stand for anything to stop once it had begun. I wanted it to continue forever. I went up and started talking to the bus driver, and I stayed awake the whole time. We hardly ever flew to a job, but a couple of times we had to when it was too far and we couldn't possibly make it on time. Once we flew to Iowa and rented a bus, and the bus broke down when we were out on a little 2-lane highway. The weather was bad, like it is in the Midwest, alternately raining and snowing, and ordinarily we would have been drugged, but we were all in such a happy frame of mind we just played right over it. We were goofing around, and we had a habit, like in the bus, we would blow sometimes. Andy and I would sit together and scat sing. We'd sing the first chorus of a song together, bebop, and then blow choruses, trade fours, and do backgrounds. Sometimes other people would join in and we'd really get into it and take out our horns, the ones you could reach easily in the bus. I'd get my clarinet and play some Dixieland. Maybe June would sing and we'd play behind her. So as it happened, we'd all been drinking and we were having one of these little sessions when the bus broke down. Our regular driver was back with our regular bus, trying to get it ready. And this driver we'd just hired didn't know what to make of us. He was fascinated. He made an announcement. He was going to radio ahead for help. We said okay and kept on playing. And all of a sudden, we just found ourselves marching out the door of the bus. It was freezing cold, but we had our coats on and our mufflers. And before we knew it, there were 20 guys out there with horns marching down the highway. There were farms and stuff you can imagine, cows and dogs and things. We were going down the highway playing marches. June Christie was a pom-pom girl strutting down the road. She was a cute little thing with light hair and a little upturned nose. She had a lot of warmth, and she was sexy in that way. No standout shape. But she was nice, and everybody liked her. And she had crinkly marks around her eyes from smiling a lot. Her husband was Bob Cooper, who played tenor with the band. He was very tall, with blonde hair and the same crinkly thing around his eyes. People used to wonder why she had married him, being June Christie. People thought that she and Stan might get something going, and there were a lot of guys that dug her. But she married Bob, and I understood it. He was one of the warmest, most polite, pleasantest people. He was completely good, if you can imagine such a thing. Just a sweetheart. And he got embarrassed easily, and he blushed a lot. And he used to drink with June. He would look after her. They were a great pair. And they were marching down the road. Ray Wetzel was marching, a fat, funny man, always laughing and smiling. He had a lot of jokes and little comic routines he used to do, and he was a wonderful trumpet player with a beautiful sound. Shelly Mann was out there in a big Russian overcoat with a fur collar and a big babushka or whatever you call it on his head. Shelly's like the picture, what me worry. And he's always making jokes, and he doesn't drink, and he doesn't smoke pot. He's naturally high. He's playing the snare drum, playing wild beats and walking like he's crippled. Bart Barcelona joined in playing his bass trombone, and another comedian. Bart was a sex freak, and he had an enormous joint, one of the biggest I've ever seen. Occasionally on the road, he'd invite some of the guys down to his room, where he'd have some real tall showgirl hustler. He'd haul out his joint and slam it on the tabletop. And then he'd have the chick do a backbend or something and give her head while we smoked pot and drank and watched. A lot of the guys in the band considered themselves real cocksmen, but I'll have to admit that the kings for pure, downright sex and the number of freaks they knew in each town were Bart and the bass player Eddie Safransky. And Eddie was there too, on the highway. Al Prasino was up in front, a marvelous trumpet player, a nice-looking guy, about 6 feet tall. In his room sometimes, he'd take Ray Wetzel's pants and put them on, the pants from his uniform. He'd fill himself up with pillows and dance in front of the mirror. A couple of times he even went out on the stand like that. He always wanted to be a band leader. He had a book full of arrangements, and wherever he went all his life, he'd get guys together and rehearse them like a big band. So he was out there with June, leading us, twirling his trumpet like a baton, marching backwards and shouting out commands. And we were doing all these movements, and we were all drunk and running into each other. Bud Shank was marching, playing his flute, playing all those trills like they do. And Milt Bernhardt, he had a big mustache at the time. He looked like Jerry Colonna. He was the lead trombone player, and nobody could play louder than him. He had the most fantastic chops of anybody I ever heard. He was playing his slide trombone and walking, pointing it up in the air and going, and we went into When the Saints Go Marching In, and we were just shouting, and we really believed that we were marching in the Rose Parade or something. Cars and trucks were coming, and it was so far out for this to be happening in that spot that they pulled off the road to watch. And they had cameras and kids and dogs, and they had the whole place bottled up, and the highway patrol finally came and made us get back in the bus. We were blocking the road. That was one of the great times. We had some great times.